There is someone in your life who irritates you in a very specific way, not a vague general annoyance, a precise, disproportionate, almost irrational irritation. Something about how they talk about themselves, their arrogance maybe, or their neediness, or the way they always play the victim, or the way they take up space without earning it. And the irritation is real. But here is something you may not have considered. What if what bothers you most about that person is something you have not yet allowed yourself to see in yourself? This is the beginning of what Carl Jung called the shadow, and it is one of the most important and most resisted ideas in the history of human psychology. The shadow is not the evil part of you. It is not the part you should be ashamed of. It is simply the part you do not know. The qualities, impulses, desires, and fears that you pushed into the dark because you were told by your family, your culture, your early experiences, that those things were unacceptable, dangerous, or wrong, and so you denied them, suppressed them, built a personality around not having them. But the shadow does not disappear just because you refuse to look at it. It goes underground, it gets projected outward, and it runs you from places you cannot see. The person who insists loudest that they are not angry is often the most dangerous person in the room. The man who has never acknowledged his own capacity for cruelty will find it everywhere around him. The woman who has suppressed her ambition for 30 years will despise the ambitious woman in front of her. You do not hate what you have conquered. You hate what you are still fighting, in the dark, without knowing it. Jung spent decades mapping this territory. His insight was radical for its time. But what almost nobody mentions is that the Stoics, writing 2,000 years before Jung, were building an almost identical map. They just used different language. They called it the unexamined self, the tyrant within, the unconsidered desire. And they treated it not as a curiosity, but as the central practical challenge of the philosophical life. Jung observed that the shadow contains not only what we fear we are, but what we secretly wish we could be. The repressed rage of the endlessly patient man, the hidden vanity of the self-declared humble woman, the desire for rest in the driven workaholic, the wildness in the conformist. This is why shadow work is not about self-flagellation. It is about retrieval. You are not going in to discover that you are a monster. You are going in to recover pieces of yourself that you exiled before you were old enough to understand why. And here is where the Stoics become indispensable. Because what they built was a practice, a set of daily disciplines for doing exactly this kind of retrieval. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals every single night, not for publication, not for posterity, for confrontation. He would ask himself, what did I do poorly today? Where did I fall short? What impulse took the reins? He was not performing virtue. He was looking for the places where virtue had slipped, because he knew those places were where the unexamined self was still running the show. Epictetus identified what he called the prohairesis, the faculty of choice, the inner citadel of rational judgment. But he spent enormous energy on its opposite, the moments when that faculty was captured by appetite, by fear, by the need for external approval. He was not interested in pretending those appetites did not exist. He was interested in seeing them clearly. Seneca, in his letters to Lucilius, wrote about the examined and the unexamined man as if they were different species. The unexamined man, he wrote, is dragged by his impulses without knowing it. He believes he is choosing. He is not choosing. He is being chosen by whatever runs beneath the surface of his awareness. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic philosopher who taught Epictetus, was perhaps the most direct of all. He argued that philosophy without rigorous self-knowledge is theater. You can dress in the robes of wisdom and speak all the right words and remain entirely captured by the forces you have never examined. The performance of virtue is not virtue, it is the shadow's most sophisticated disguise. Cleanthes, who succeeded Zeno at the head of the Stoic school, wrote hymns to Logos, to reason, as the organizing principle of the cosmos. But Logos was not abstract, it was the rational capacity within each person. And the shadow, in Stoic terms, is whatever still lies beyond that capacity's reach, the drives and patterns that operate before reason can catch them. The unexamined shadow runs in predictable patterns. Once you can see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. The first is projection. This is Jung's original observation, and it is everywhere once you know where to look. Whatever you have rejected in yourself, you will detect, amplify, and condemn in others. The man who cannot tolerate his own laziness becomes obsessed with other people's laziness. The woman who has suppressed her sexuality will be alarmed by other women's. The parent who sacrificed their own ambition will punish their child's. Projection is the shadow's way of having its say without ever coming into the light. The second is compulsive virtue signaling. Not about social media performances, though those can be part of it. It is about the compulsive need to be seen as good, as correct, as righteous, precisely because what lives in the shadow is the opposite. The man who needs everyone to know he is kind is often struggling with something unkind inside him. The need to perform goodness publicly is the shadow knocking from the other side of the door. The third is self-sabotage. When the shadow contains a belief about what you deserve, it will correct for any deviation. If the shadow believes you are a failure, it will arrange for you to fail, not through malice, but through the unconscious choices that confirm its story. Every time you get close to something good, something real, something you have always wanted, a force seems to pull you back. That force is the shadow maintaining its preferred version of you. The fourth is the outer enemy. When the shadow is never examined, it needs an external home. It gets poured into politics, into enemies, into institutions. The rage that belongs to personal wounds becomes tribal rage. The fear that belongs to childhood gets inflated into cosmic threat. Men who have never dealt with their own powerlessness need to fight enemies everywhere. It is easier than fighting themselves. This is why the examined life was not a luxury for the Stoics. It was emergency medicine. An unexamined person is not a neutral presence in the world. They are a compressed force, spreading their unresolved darkness outward with complete sincerity. So what does shadow work actually look like as a daily Stoic integrated practice? First, the projection audit. Every significant, disproportionate irritation you feel about another person is a question directed at you, not at them. Not every irritation. Some people genuinely behave badly, and it is appropriate to notice. But the ones that stay with you, the ones that seem to generate an energy beyond what the situation requires, those are worth asking. What does this person represent that I have not yet made peace with in myself? Second, the evening examination, taken deeper. The Stoic Nightly Review asks what you did poorly. Take one step further. Ask not just what you did, but what you felt that you did not want to feel. What impulse arose that you quickly suppressed or rationalized? What would you have done if no one was watching and you knew there were no consequences? You are not looking for confession. You are looking for data. The shadow reveals itself in the gap between the person you present and the person you privately are. Third, the voluntary discomfort. The Stoics practice physical discipline and negative visualization partly for this reason. When you deliberately choose what is hard, you surface what has been unconscious. The man who never says no will discover what he resents when he starts saying no. The woman who has always been agreeable will discover what she actually wants when she practices disagreement. Shadow work is not always inward. Sometimes you find it by doing the thing the shadow has been forbidding. Here is what Jung and the Stoics both understood, and what almost every modern approach gets wrong. The goal is not to eliminate the shadow. The goal is to integrate it. A man who has integrated his anger is not an angry man. He is a man who can access the energy of anger without being possessed by it. A woman who has integrated her ambition is not a ruthless woman. She is a woman who can pursue what she wants without shame. The shadow integrated becomes power. The shadow suppressed becomes fate. Zeno of Citium said that to live according to nature is to live according to reason. But nature, as the Stoics understood it, includes the full human being, not the sanitized performance of humanity, but its whole contour. You cannot live fully according to your nature if half of your nature is hidden in the dark. Epictetus, the freed slave who became the most rigorous teacher of his age, said one thing above all others: know what is yours, know what is not. The shadow work is part of that project. You cannot govern what you have not yet claimed. You cannot choose freely from forces you have never acknowledged. The inner citadel is only unconquerable once you have mapped its entire territory, including the parts that embarrass you, disturb you, and contradict the story you have told yourself about who you are. That is the work. Not comfortable, not quick, but sovereign. If this video resonated, subscribe. It is the simplest way to tell me to keep making these. Until next time, be sovereign.